Hey there champs, in today's round we're gonna be talking about Naoya Inoue and his victory over Marlon Tapales and who should be number one pound for pound, either him or Terence Bud Crawford, and we're gonna be talking about that next. But before that, if you guys are not subscribed, please punch and knock out that subscription button, that way you'll never see it again, and ding the notification bell, that way you'll never miss any of my new boxing videos. Alright guys, let's get to the round. Ding ding. Alright champs, let's get started. Let's start with Naoya Inoue and his victory over Marlon Tapales. The fight just happened last night and it was really good, even though I fell asleep during the fight, not because it was boring, but because it happened like at 3 a.m. I only really seen the undercard and the next one was Tapales versus Inoue, but I fell asleep. But thank God they had the whole fight on YouTube, so I seen the whole fight this morning, and the fight was very competitive at first until Tapales got knocked down. I believe he got knocked down in the 4th round. There was only 5 seconds remaining in the round, and good thing because Naoya Inoue is a great finisher. And after that, Tapales was not the same fighter as he was before he got knocked down. You can tell he never really recuperated from the knockdown. His movement seemed to slow down, so did his punches and speed. He did have a few moments here and there, but not much as before he got knocked down. You can tell Naoya Inoue is a real monster and he is the real deal, carrying scary power. Just ask Stephen Fulton, he went down the same way. After the first knockdown, Tapales abandoned his original game plan. He also changed his boxing stand to more of a defensive mode. He was probably still groggy from the first knockdown. And for the remaining of the fight, he just kept fighting in a defensive mode, kind of like Ryan Garcia when he fought Duarte. I believe if he did not fight in a defensive style, he would have gone down faster. This fight showed how great Naoya Inoue is. Well, he is not really great, this guy is special. This guy beat the brakes out of Stephen Fulton as well, getting those 2 titles. So now he unified with Tapales to become the undisputed champion. And not just that, he was already an undisputed champion on the lower weight class. So he moved up in weight and became an undisputed champion as well. And he did all of this in less than 12 months. That is amazing. I believe this guy has a boxing resemblance to Manny Pacquiao, but I believe he is more skilled than Manny Pacquiao. I can't wait for Naoya Inoue to come down to America and start fighting here in the States. I would love to go watch him live. And he is also another fighter that I'm gonna put in my throwback fighter list. And he is also the second boxer to become an undisputed champion in the 4-bout era. The first being Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford became undisputed twice when he defeated Errol Spence Jr. It was a unification fight. Errol Spence had 3 belts and Terence Crawford had 1 belt. Terence Crawford beat the brakes out of Errol Spence in a one-sided fight. That fight was not even close and everybody was praising Terence Crawford as being the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, including me. Even though everybody had speculations and doubts because he beat him pretty bad, and Terence Crawford had never really dominated anybody just like that. Terence Crawford did not dominate Jose Benavidez or Mean Machine the way he dominated Errol Spence. And I always said that Jose Benavidez and Mean Machine were not as good as Errol Spence. So the whole boxing world was speculating why he beat Errol Spence the way he did, so easily and so one-sided. I personally believe myself that Errol Spence was going to beat Terence Crawford, but I always thought the fight was going to be competitive and it was going to be a 50-50 fight, but I believe down in my heart that Errol Spence was going to edge it out. So there was a lot of rumors after that saying that Errol Spence was either weight drained or there was something really wrong with him. Some people even said that those car accidents finally caught up to him, because no one has ever seen Errol Spence fight that poorly. And not just that, Errol Spence is a man. He did not make any excuse. Nothing came came out of his mouth. He just kept saying the better man won, the better man won. We all just believe he was weight drained, even though I knew he wasn't weight drained. That does not look like somebody that's weight drained. Weight drain is Devin Haney at 135 trying to make 135. I mean Devin Jackson. It looks like Devin Haney could have starred in a remix with Michael Jackson on Thriller 2. Errol Spence did not look anything like that. And not just that, Errol Spence said he had a good nutritionist. But the whole boxing world went along with that, even though I knew it wasn't true. But there was no other excuse. We all went along with it. But thank God for Showbiz the adult, the one who spilled the beans. This guy has some inside sources of revealing what really happened to Errol Spence. So Errol Spence, in a sparring session training for Terence Crawford, he injured his ribs and actually dislocated them. So Errol Spence was not able to spar months before the fight happened. I'm pretty sure that's why he looked rusty and looking like an amateur, because it looked like he did not even train for the fight. He just said, let's go in there and see what happens. But now that we know all of this, thanks to Showbiz, we all know now why Terence Crawford looked so great against Errol Spence. So knowing this, it does take away from Terence Crawford and his #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. You cannot say that Terence Crawford is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world if you now know that he beat up on an Errol Spence that was rib injured and was not able to train months before the fight. But if you see in my past videos, I had Terence Crawford as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world before I knew all of this information. And I had the monster Inoue as #2 because we all know Errol Spence at his full strength is better than Stephen Fulton. So now I have Inoue as #1. But that's why there's rematches, guys. So if Terence Crawford beats Errol Spence in the same way he did the first fight, he will definitely be my #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Even if Terence Crawford beats Errol Spence in the rematch, but the fight is close and competitive, he will not be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world anymore, because that will confirm that Errol Spence was really rib injured and he could not train for the past few months before the fight. Also, Teofimo Lopez beat up the guy that was undisputed, Josh Taylor, and he beat him in a similar fashion as Terence Crawford beat Errol Spence and Naoya Inoue beat up Stephen Fulton. But when Teofimo Lopez beat Josh Taylor did not have all 4 belts anymore. But nobody actually beat Josh Taylor for the belts. I believe he either got stripped or he got rid of them. Nobody actually beat him for the belts, and Teofimo beat the man that was undisputed. Guys, that's how boxing works. That's the reason Teofimo Lopez is not undisputed 2 times. So right now I have Naoya Inoue as #1, Teofimo Lopez as #2, and Terence Crawford and Reeses as #3 until he gets the rematch with Errol Spence. Now, if he beats Errol Spence in the same way he did as the first fight, he will definitely be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Personally believe if Naoya Inoue was as big as Terence Crawford, he can beat Terence Crawford. That's it for me, champs. If you guys like the show, like the video and subscribe. I gotta roll.